What is up, everybody? How are we doing this lovely Wednesday afternoon? Hope you guys are doing real well. I'm Jason. It's good to see you. Wow, the markets are rocking today, are they not? It seems that the inflation numbers are just a smidge lower than anybody expected them to be. And so because of that, we're getting this really killer move in all the indices today. Big gap ups across the indices on lots of the major names. This is really exciting stuff. If you're a bull, if you're bearish going into today, I don't know quite what to tell you. Pretty difficult time to be bearish here. But wow, what a move. What a move. Talk to me, guys. Y'all are here. What are you guys thinking about this today? Do you think that this is legit? Do you think that this move has legs? Do you think they're going to sell it off into the rest of the week? How are we feeling about these inflation numbers? There's lots of talk out there. People saying all kinds of different things. They're cooked. They're not measured the same way that they used to be. Well, if you take food and energy out, then it's really 6%, not 8.5%. How much do these sorts of things matter? I'm genuinely asking because I don't know. I'm always surprised by kind of what happens, how the market's reaction to things. So I'm trying to figure it out along with you guys. So I'd love to get y'all's feedback on what you think is going on today. Francisco, I see you, man. You say something has to sell soon. The market was expecting a lower than expected print. It's definitely possible, man. It's definitely possible. The thing that is really interesting to me, you guys know I've been talking about it for a while. We got this move on the SPY. SPY's looking like it's in a real interesting little spot to me. Now, let me remove this guy. I talked about it in the weekend update. I talked about it on Monday. You have your distribution area here from June. We came up into it, and on the other indices, on IWM, here's IWM, same distribution area is kind of right in here. We came into that area and we just blew right through it on IWM. IWM showing an interesting amount of strength in comparison to the other indices. On the Qs, same exact deal. Here is your area of distribution from June. We came through it, we held it, and we've really lifted off from it. But the SPY has been a little laggard, hasn't it? Not up until today, it's really been lagging. And now today, it feels like, what is next? This feels like a very pivotal point for the SPY. And the reason why I say that is because we're coming into the anchored VWAP from the all-time high. Has it mattered before? Yeah, I mean, it has some, right? You can see right here, it had an impact on price action, had a little bit of an impact on price action here. Not as much of an impact here. Now the question is it gonna really impact price here, or is the fact that every time we've come back into it, we've gotten progressively further and further away from it before ultimately falling? Maybe this time we're able to actually make the move up and out and hold it. So that's what I'm gonna be looking for here. We do, this to me is kind of like potentially a day one sort of scenario for SPY, considering that it really is lagging the other indices. The other indices have shown us that this level, once crossed, it was going to hold and we were going to continue. So that's kind of where my head's at here for the SPY. Now, whether or not the Qs continue from here, it's certainly possible. We've got that anchored VWAP from the all-time high at 336. We've got these highs here that will definitely cause a reaction. What kind of reaction? I'm not really sure. We'll have to wait and see on that. We've got some big moving averages. We got the 200 EMA here that we're toying with today, actually. I'm really interested in this. Francisco, you say the main driver down could be Amazon. Let's check out the Amazon chart. I haven't even looked at it today, so that'll be interesting to see. What's going on with Amazon? If you are here, please say hello. We'd love to say hello. Love to get to know you. If you're new to the show, we do these every Monday and Wednesday. This is just a time for us to hang out. You guys can ask as many questions as you want about the TrendSpider platform. I'm here to answer them. I'm happy to do chart requests for y'all. Hit me with what you got. What's up, Mr. B? Aloha. Yeah, we're just hanging out here. So it's, super informal. We're just chilling, talking shop. What's up, Alex? Hope you're doing good today, my man. So let's talk through Amazon here. Now, clearly Amazon in a pretty important spot, as a lot of names are, right? This area in here, we were able to gain these lows. We did trade above them. This move definitely surprised me initially on that gap up on that third day here. I really thought we were going to get a continuation down, and we didn't. They completely turned it around and went higher with it. So for now, all I see is we're making higher highs and we're making higher lows. Now, do I think, Francisco, that we're going to come back in at some point and test this whole consolidation? 100% I do. When that happens, however, is yet to be seen. I don't want to assume that that's going to happen instantly. Assuming kind of historically has gotten me in a lot of trouble. So I like to let price action lead the way. Now, one thing I see here, looks like they tried to make a new high off of looks like August 8th's high. And they weren't really able to do that. Really would have wanted to see this hold. So that's maybe a little bit concerning. Obviously, we do have the gap today. Interesting that Amazon is trading below its anchored VWAP from the day. I'm almost certain that the Qs are trading above. Initially, this is kind of troublesome. I would agree with that. Just the fact that they did not make a new high, did not close on a closing basis. They didn't make a new high. But, however, you do still have higher lows. If this is the low, this is your main low, you got a higher low, and then a higher low, and then a higher low. So, if we're going to be thinking about Amazon going lower, in my opinion, we've got to get below this low. We've got to close somewhere below this kind of major low here. If we can get a close below that 136 level, then we can start talking about price maybe coming back, retesting, making a new lower high, and then we can talk about a short. Now, of course, anything can happen, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen when price gets to these areas, but it's just kind of the way that I think about markets. It's the way that I'm kind of looking at things. So for now, you got potentially a little bit of a warning shot. I mean, you did make a new high technically, like at least on some sort of small time frame, you made a new high. We can look at it. I don't know. Maybe you didn't on a closing basis. Hard to know. Well, let me go to like a 3 minute and see. Yeah, they didn't even get it on the 3 minute. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of concerning to me. This kind of feels like we talk about this a lot, right? We talk about price coming into those highs and then just kind of trading just barely above them. You got a bunch of people who have stops up here, trading just above them, taking out the highs and then taking it lower. So yeah, that is a little bit concerning in my opinion. But for today, we still are holding higher lows. So we'll see kind of what they do over the next 2 hours or next hour and a half. I don't know. It really could kind of go either way for me on here or just in general. And so I'm just kind of playing it day by day, hour by hour, 15-minute candle by 15-minute candle, and just looking for potential warning shots. I mean, we haven't made it above these particular highs right here, which you want to see that. You want to see new highs being made. If we're going to go higher, we need to be making new highs. And if we're coming up to previous highs and failing at them, that kind of suggests that we might need to go lower first. So I do think that this 125 area is going to come into play eventually, Francisco. I just don't know exactly when. And so I'll just wait for price action to tell me when to start considering that. And it might be telling me that now. The next step here would be if we make a new low. If we make a new low, then I know, all right, we've got a brand new low. The trend might be changing here, and then we'll start looking for opportunities to get into a short. Mario Ruiz, Disney is looking juicy this morning. Let's talk about Disney. Ooh, she does look pretty strong. Let's go to a bigger time frame. I know we've gone over Disney before. I'm gonna remove all this stuff. Yeah, so this is kind of what you want to see, right? Like if we're closing on a relative basis. Well, hold up. So I don't know what your idea here is with this, Mario, but it is possible that we could be at a bit of a exhaustion risk here. I mean, you have run in 5 sessions. Let's see. In 5 sessions, we've gained 25% on Disney. It's a pretty big move. Now, granted, 5 sessions over here, you probably lost 25%. So the thing that I would be looking for with this is if you do end up trading and making a new high here, I would be looking for some sort of pullback eventually. And that pullback could come like a handful of different ways. So far, we haven't quite done it yet, but you know, price could do lots of different things here. If you see price jump through this real quick and immediately sell off, then you know that they're trying to take out shorts who were short from those previous highs. If it can gain this and come back and test and hold it, then we got a whole new thing on our hands, right? It's a whole nother idea, a whole nother look. So that's what I would be watching for here. If they're not able to get above this, then again, same idea. You start thinking about what's gonna send it lower. What's gonna be where will market makers be looking for traders who have stops? So they're going to be targeting longs in that case, right? And you're going to want to see some previous lows hold. And so maybe your first area is kind of today's lows. You want to see what price does. If it does fail here, you want to see what price does when it comes back in to these lows. If it ends up holding and starts reversing and going higher, then you know that that has made a higher low and it might be ready to make that next move higher. So that would be the way that I would be looking at Disney here. Tough to go long because you're at a very, very tricky spot if you're long biased. You really want to see this gain, and it might be putting in a bit of like a shooting star type of candle today, the pretty classic reversal candle. And it wouldn't be a surprise to see price get paused here. You know, this is what price does. It looks for previous highs and lows. So if you do end up pausing here, you know, and on the bigger time frames, the first, you know, pivotal low that I'm kind of seeing is this guy right here, the August 5th low, and then below that you've got this guy down here, and this guy down here even kind of jives a little bit more, almost akin to the Amazon idea, where you have, you know, price finally broke out. And, you know, you've got your anchored VWAP from this gap down. This is at $99 or something like that. It could take time, though, for this to happen. You know, this isn't something that would necessarily come quickly. It could do something like this. And over that time period, it could maybe even make a higher low, right? Like it could just kind of slowly grind sideways. While it's slowly grinding sideways, you've got your anchored VWAP catching up to it slowly, right? So it's all about just watching it and letting price action kind of dictate, you know, what your plan is. Mr. B, you signed up just a couple of days ago. Hopefully you got to take advantage of that killer discount that we were offering over the weekend, I'd hope. Awesome, man. So happy to have you here. We really appreciate your signing up on the platform. If you have any questions specific to the platform, please hit me with them. I'm here to answer those sorts of questions. So don't hesitate to hit me with those. While we wait, I am going to check out, let's see here. Chewy put the 200-day moving average on Amazon. I think I had the 200 EMA on it. I'm not sure if you're referring to the SMA or the EMA. So the EMA, it's trading above. I bet it's just at the 200 today. Let's see. That's going to be my guess. Because the EMA is going to track a little bit faster. Yeah. So there's your 200. And yeah, I mean, Chewy, for sure. You know, lots of eyes. Always going to be eyes on that 200-day moving average. It's an important spot, for sure. So we'll see what it does when it gets there. You know, Apple doesn't seem to respect it like to a T. you know, some names respect it really, 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 really nicely. Other names kind of don't that much. And Apple looks to me to be a name that doesn't really respect it like perfectly. It does respect it. You know, we can see it coming into the 200 and sort of holding. You know, initially it held here and then resistance, 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 and then it finally gained. And then, of course, you guys can kind of see all the places where the 200 came into play, and then here where it got rejected. Absolutely 100% chance that 200 could come into play. If it does, if Amazon's going lower because of the 200 SMA, I would expect some action above it, because we get action above and below it all the time. That's not uncommon. Even like double bottom action here, and then kind of a light double top action too. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was able to gain it, that it traded above it before it broke down, just because that's what it has a tendency to do. KPTI for Tommy. Tommy, what's happening, man? Let's check out KPTI for you. See what's going on with this. Cariofam. Never heard of this? Ooh. Well, all right. So you are holding the lows. Kind of got a double bottom thing, right? Right there. Whenever I have stocks that don't have... I guess this has some years. I'm going to anchor a VWAP to the IPO in November 2013. Kind of always want to know where that IPO anchored VWAP is, if it's reasonable. And just kind of looking to see how it plays. Looks like price came into it in February of this year. It kind of failed. The fact that it's holding, actually, it looks like it's kind of slightly holding a higher low. If you're long this, I would not be long below 390. You know, it's kind of an obvious thing. The fact that they didn't slightly take out these lows almost makes me want to think that someday they might. Who knows when that could come, but you know, you would kind of want to see them like wick into it to take out stops, but they didn't really quite do that. So I'm going to go to a weekly here and see what the weekly shows us. So on the weekly, we see it. They did it. They did it off of this low, though. I'm just going to move this up. Right, so you have this low here, and they kind of wicked down into this low over a handful of several weeks and kind of took out all these stops here. You know, this one's tricky. Another thing we can do, you can always do, anchor a VWAP from an important high. This is clearly an important high. I would imagine there was lots of volume on this day. I'm going to turn off these moving averages. I'm going to turn on... Y'all, I promise my vision isn't this bad. It's just I got this ring light, and I can't see my screen very well with the ring light. All right, so we had tons of volume on this particular day. Who knows what this was? Maybe this was like an earnings. No, wasn't an earnings. Don't know what it was. But we can see price when price breaks down and it comes back to test. Very, very clear reversal here off of this anchored VWAP. Since that's the last time that's happened, we can anchor another one, and we get some very clear reversals off of the secondary one that we anchored that right here, all through in here, and we break down. In theory now, you could anchor a third. My guess is price is above it. Yep, price is. So that's a fundamental new kind of thing to see, right? Like, before, when we'd anchor VWAP, price would stay below it and get rejected at it. And now price is kind of consolidating. So I think that the price action here is constructive. Looks like they came back and they tested this low. 480 area might be kind of interesting now that we have kind of made some determinations about kind of where we are coming from, right? Oh, look at what they did. See, this is what I'm talking about. They did do it. I should have just gone to the daily to begin with, but this is what I'm talking about. You got this low and they come down and they scoop the low. You See that? They're so tricky. These market makers are so tricky. So what I would kind of expect initially is for them to do the same type of thing, but on the upside. So if you see price come up into this high, this 558, I would be a seller into 558. And then I'd be looking for another opportunity to get in. It is a nice base for sure. Now, and also it doesn't mean that they don't just like slam it through 158. They certainly could. I maybe would miss out on some of that move. The next area above that you would kind of want to be looking at is somewhere in here, like 620. I don't know if this company has any catalysts coming up that would cause something like that to happen. We could throw up other data. So it looks like they had earnings just a couple days ago. So you don't have earnings to worry about, but also you don't have earnings to potentially help you with that move. We can go down to even a smaller time frame. And now that we know, okay, so they took out all the stops here, and ramped it, right? So now we're just kind of looking to see what has price action kind of done. Makes a move higher, comes back and tests kind of in here, makes a move higher, comes back and tests. It very well could be set up for the next little leg. Trading 523 up to 550. It's not a huge move. It's like 6% or something. You know, you have this kind of flat top thing that's going on. It's kind of a loosely drawn line, but you get the idea. You know, looking for price, stopping, wicking into the same general areas. It really wouldn't surprise me to see them come into 560. And then above that, like I said, kind of, I mean, really, your next levels really is this high up here. So you could get a move even back to like 670, 680. That's kind of my thinking. Tommy. So you're asking about NAS. I would love to look at the futures, but unfortunately our futures are delayed by a full day at this time. We are working on getting live futures data. I'm told that we're going to have it on the platform here probably like quite soon. And I cannot wait for it because futures are so important. But what we can do if you want to talk futures, I mean, we can talk QQQ and just throw after hours data on. I'm not exactly sure the correlation. I can't tell you like the NASDAQ number against the QQQ number. But oh, Sonia. I remember you, Sonia. 1,305 target made. I suppose I could pull this up here. I mean, more than 1,305 made. You talking about 13.5 or 1,305? Because looks like NASDAQ traded up to 13.4 almost today. I'm just looking at my futures account on a different platform here. Apple feels like FEMA. Oh, hold on. Let's do this first. DMI indicator. I've not used the DMI indicator. Austin, tell me about it. What's the story with it? Let's look at CVS while we wait for Austin to tell us about the DMI. So, always going to bigger time frames first. Kind of see where we're coming from. So interesting. Here's your old high, 113, back in July of 2015. Could this be a failed new high right here? January 2022? Could be. Got another lower high in March. I mean, to me, just based on what it's doing and where it's been, I think it's coming into a decent short spot. Probably somewhere around like 106. And you would be trading that with the idea that if it were to gain 109, somewhere between 109 and 111, you would be getting out. So that's kind of where my head would be at on this. I would be short into this stuff.
and I would have stops set. I probably wouldn't have them set per se, but my idea for a stop would be kind of if we are able to trade above these highs, above 110 to 111. If we trade and close above there, then I would think we're probably going to try and make our way to new all-time highs. Now, do keep in mind, though, remember what I always say, market makers like to move things around. They like to reverse right when everybody gets all bulled up, or right when everybody gets all bared up. So if you were to trade above this, there is the chance that they could reverse it. We could see pretty clear. You've got a really nice level below 97 that they haven't come back to test. And I would anticipate that they're going to do that at some point. I don't know, maybe this thing had earnings. Is that what caused this gap up? Yep. So it also could be a gap and go. I don't know. Fundamentally, I don't know how those earnings were in comparison to what people were expecting. So hard to say on that. But, another thought here too, on a smaller time frame, you have a pretty clear low, right? You made a move higher, you came back, and now you're trying to make another high. You have a pretty clear low as well. So be on the lookout here. Around 101.50, they could come down and they could do a couple of different things. They could hold it and take it higher. They could not even come down to it, just make another higher low and take it higher. They could come down and trade just below it and take it higher, right? All of these things are different things to think about. Or they could take it lower and then bounce back to it and fail it. So having a plan is the way, understanding kind of like what outcomes are going to come from different occurrences. But right now, on a big time frame, you have a failed new high, right? You're in a downtrend technically until we can kind of gain the all-time high here at 114. We're in a downtrend. And so if we're coming back into previous highs, our expectation would be a continuation lower. Turn up my mic. Let me see if I can turn up my mic. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize it was so quiet. How is that? Is that better? Let me know if this is better. I'll try and talk a little bit louder, too. So, Koisini. Hopefully that was helpful for you there with CVS. Okay, so Francisco, Apple feels like FEMA, the house shelter that everybody is throwing themselves at. That thing keeps moving up. Well, so, I heard somebody talking about Apple. I think Apple's going to make new all-time highs. I heard somebody talking about Apple relatively recently, and they called it a commodity. And that idea kind of gave me some pause, because if you think about it, kind of is. They've completely transcended tech company, right? Now in my opinion, there are a couple of warning shots. First of all, you have lower highs, right? Pretty clear lower highs. Here's your high, and here's your lower high, right? And you also have lower lows, not just within this initial downtrend from the high, but you even took out the low over here too. This is kind of a pivotal low, because this is the low that got you all the way up here. So to me, this is a warning shot that we took out these lows. And it kind of makes me suspect about what they're going to do when they come back into this high. Now, anything can happen, of course. So we're going to be watching very, very closely what they do here. If they're able to get up and over, I think it's on. Doesn't mean it can't pull back. Doesn't mean it shouldn't pull back. It certainly can. And it arguably should. It's pretty darn extended, like you said. It's been nonstop, right?
this is kind of what Apple does. So we've got a little gap to fill up here, around 174. And then we've got these highs. And we got to really be mindful of what happens when price gets into these highs. If price gets into these highs and is able to get above them, that's a big change of trend, right? Now, if we pretend like this whole section of the chart doesn't exist, actually, I guess this whole section. So just don't look at this. What do we do here? You have a high, you made a lower high, you made another lower high, and then you made a higher high, and then we failed. They can do this. So we got to be really, really mindful. This kind of did not meet expectations, really. But they gained a high, so they come down, and then they test that low, and they end up failing it. And then when they failed it, then we knew. I don't know. It's a tough one. I do think it's coming up here, though. I think 175 is locked in. Now, whether or not it pulls back first, it could, but clearly current trajectory does not suggest that it needs to, because it definitely hasn't really. The pullbacks have been very, very shallow. Initially, I guess this one was pretty gnarly, but each pullback has been more and more shallow. So I would kind of expect just a ripper up into 175. And then once they get to 175, then we'll talk and see. Joe, what's happening, my man? I'm doing well. I hope you're doing good too. AUY. This is a gold name? Yeah. VWAP from COVID high and COVID low, about the same. Let's see. Ooh, this thing is boring. No offense, Joe, but you gotta admit, it's pretty boring. Hasn't done much. Let's see. Yeah, interesting. I mean, powerful level, right? Of course, from the low, I would say is more powerful than from the high, simply because it considers more, or takes into account more price action. So I would kind of be more keen to just look at it like this. I like that they held this low down in here. I guess pretty specifically, like this candle right here is kind of pretty much what they held, right? This is the one that has the lowest low. So they kind of came in and kind of held the high of that candle. You know, I've had it's very small. I mean, all my positions are pretty small, but I've had a small position in. Let me see the name of it. I'm just looking real quick. In NEM for a minute now, and it's just been chilling. I mean, it's gained a couple bucks, lost a couple bucks, gained a couple bucks. The miners are holding in. I think silver is a little bit stronger than gold, just from. I was looking at the charts earlier. But let's see. What have we done really? Kind of tricky price action. You got a low here. You have a lower low. You have a high and a higher high. So you kind of got like price action is kind of megaphoning a little bit. We were able to get above this high, so that's good. I mean, really, your pretty much next untested is kind of this guy. August 3rd, 2020. So, I mean, they held low. Kind of suggests that they're going to want to take it higher. It's a pretty clean hold. Pretty decent consolidation for the past couple of weeks. Again, we're just looking at the weekly time frame here. Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, I would keep a tight leash on it personally. I guess really the price action is pretty tight on this anyway. You know, your lows 440, it's trading at $5, so it's 60 cents. What's that? 12%. So 12% stop, maybe. I mean, I probably wouldn't even give it that much room. I would probably have a stop like because you really would want to see these next lows. And this is tested. I don't know. I probably would stop below 450, so 50 cents. And then I would be targeting back to highs, $6. That's not, or 620. So 75 cents. No, a $1.25 target with a 50-cent stop loss. I don't know if that's really 3 to 1. If you were to go long, like right now, this second. Yeah, I'd probably put a stop around here somewhere. And then be targeting somewhere up here. So 2.5 to 1. Not the best risk reward ever, but not terrible. I guess that would be an initial, you know, take profit spot. Ultimate profit or ultimate target would be way up here. So 3.69 R on that one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the gold miners, this is like, as far as I can tell about gold miners, and I've been, you know, watching stocks for some time, gold miners are not anything that I ever really spent any time trying to understand. I know that they can be boring and they can also be super volatile. So I would just be, you know, just kind of know your time frame. Obviously, this thing moves really slow, right? I said it was boring for a reason. Like, it's boring because it's boring. It gained 100%, looks like. Well, a little bit more than 100% from the COVID lows. And it's just chopped in this range. There is, though, I mean, I don't know. You do have a lower. Tricky. Yeah, I would keep the stop tight. Because you do have some stuff down here that price hasn't really come back into. Doesn't mean it necessarily has to. But it hasn't. Around like $3. But you made a higher low here. Yeah, tricky. It's unfortunate that all charts can't just be easy to read, but some of them aren't. JT, what's happening, man? Thank you for being here. Bear Bull, is the volume better now? Yeah, okay. That old donkey. Nevin Young, what's up, man? We live data point to data point, man. Yeah. It's true. It's what it feels like. XLK and Tesla also coming up to the 200-day. Yeah, we were talking about. I was fortunate to get to hang out with my buddy Aaron on Benzinga today. We were talking about Tesla. Let's look at Tesla first. I mean, so Tesla came right into where you would have wanted it to come. We talk about this all the time here on the stream. Right, you had that consolidation area, we got above it, we came back to it, we held, we went higher. So the next step was pulling back into where we broke from here. And that's exactly what we did. So, you know, I mean, you really want to make a new high, right? You want to get above this guy up here. So you want to get above 951. Currently you're holding. Currently you're holding. So we'll see. Where's that 200-day moving average at? Yeah, kind of right at it. But it's flat. Like this doesn't look, this is a different looking, totally different looking 200-day moving average than, what was the name that we added the 200-day moving average to the other day? Or not the other day, but just earlier. I think it was something that you had asked about. I can't remember. So we're always looking for kind of the slope of the 200 too. And I mean, the slope here is flat. It's not as bad as if it were sloping down. You'd love to see it sloping up, but hey, you know, I don't think this looks terrible. There is a gap down here, 751. Does the gap need to fill anytime soon? No, not necessarily. And does Elon selling millions of shares matter? Clearly not, right? You held and you went higher. So that doesn't matter. I don't know. I kind of think this thing's gonna continue higher, personally. Maybe do 1,000 psychological. See what happens when it gets there. And if you break below this 839, it's a pretty important pivot. If you break below it, then you would be looking for a retest, maybe back into that 200 to fail or something like that. But you know, I kind of think it's going to continue. Oh, sorry, I missed a couple of names. James Brown, the grandfather of funk, the grandfather of soul. James Brown wants to look at mRNA. mRNA. Oh, so mRNA. This was interesting. I don't know if any of y'all tuned in last night, but one of our guests on the Trade Ideas of the Week Twitter space last night had mRNA, and his idea turned out to be a really good one. His idea was a short on the move back into 175. I liked it so much I put an alert on it. I didn't end up taking the trade, but I liked the idea a lot. He was looking for, you know, we broke this gap down low. He was looking for a move back into it and then to fade it. Now, he did have some pretty gnarly targets. He had, I think, 168 was a target, which he almost got. I'm sure he trimmed some. And then he had 162 as the ultimate target. Whether or not it's going in there, I'm not sure. This is an awesome trade idea that came direct from one of our guests last night, Bullish Matt. Now, with that said, made a new high, right? I mean, if this is your old big high to get above, we just did. I mean, I could totally see his idea playing out ultimately. Move back into 162. It's getting close. It could take time, but I'd be a little bit more bullish on mRNA than bearish, personally. And I'd be looking to try to get long as close to that gap fill as I could. Down in here somewhere. Maybe it fuffles around a little bit down here and then slowly climbs. Give the old anchored VWAP from the low a little bit of time to catch up. Something like that. I don't know. But I definitely like it long more than I like it short. I think you missed the short. Because the short was when you made this new high. Let's see. Microsoft, Mr. B. Microsoft coming into a really, really important area, frankly. We've highlighted this area a lot on the indices. But these old highs right here, super, super important. Super important. And right now, this is just a little floating little island, doji. Amazon did the same thing. Let's not forget. You know, before we get all bearish, let's not forget what Amazon did. A floating island into pretty heavy resistance. Into 3 previous lows, major lows. Floating island. And what did we end up doing? Well, we went sideways for 2 days and then we continued to gain. Can Microsoft do the same thing? Of course. Is it going to? Not necessarily. But it certainly could. So, hard to say here what to expect. I think what I would probably do if it were me trading it, because I do have this level down here that I would still like to see price come back to. Maybe it could even come back in even lower. What I would be doing, let me just do this. This would be kind of like a strat type of idea. I'll be watching for breaks above and below. Depending on how long we spend here, kind of going sideways. I mean, they're just testing they're just sitting in this range, testing the range low. They did it right here. Then they tested the range high, and they got a new high. And then they came back and they tested the range low, and then they went back and tested the high. And then they tested the low, and they tested the high, and they tested the low. Right? They're just going sideways here, testing ranges. So it needs to break out of a range. My gut instinct would be for them to come down, take out stops, and then turn it back. And then I might also gut instinct look for them to come up here and take out stops and turn it back the opposite direction. So right now, to me, this is like not really tradable. You got to wait for them to establish a direction. XLK, back to XLK for Chewy. Technology, so this is kind of like QQQ, but not QQQ. I mean, 156.91, big level, just kind of in here. Super important. Super, super important. We are at the anchored VWAP from the all-time high. Initially, we failed it back in January. We were able to slightly gain it, and then it rolled over in March. Maybe now's the time to gain it. Let's go to the daily here. And kind of the same thing, right? As a lot of tech. Really want to see it get above this high. Excuse me. And even this one too. This one, 151, aligns with the 200. Oh, my gut instinct is higher, man. But there is at least, I mean, 136 could come eventually. And it wouldn't surprise me. It may not come for months, though. You know, it's all about like, all right, so we know that inflation is a little bit lower. Now what's the expectation? Because inflation is a little bit lower. Does that mean that they're going to chill out on the rates? I don't know. Yeah, but whatever the market, it's all about what the market expects. BBY? Or BBBY, sorry. Not Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond. So BBBY is one of those names that always goes with the pumps. Like when things are down in the dumps and every once in a while, every 4 months or 5 months or however long it is, they pump these names. Maybe they're heavily shorted and they pump these names. I don't really touch this sort of stuff because they could pull the rug on you at any time. I mean, it does have a history of pretty intense moves. Is this the start of one? It certainly could be. All of the other moves had quite a bit of volume on them. But the volume spikes, if we look at the volume spikes, they tend to come on the highs. Do they not? If we just look down here at volume. The biggest volume days are the tops. So I think with a name like this, what you really need to look for, and I'm not saying it's not going to go higher. It certainly could. But what I kind of recommend is, this. So you have these anomalies. This thing's going sideways, doing nothing. Just not even going sideways. This thing's just failing day in and day out. Making new lows, making new lows, making new lows off of this high. Just fade for months. And then all of a sudden, you get this pickup in volume. Right? You gap down, you get a pickup in volume. You get another big volume day. These are not common. So when a name like this historically performs really poorly, except for, when it gets these pumps, you want to be looking for the volume kind of growing out for essentially no reason. And that's exactly what we see down here. right? I mean, you had a big gap down. That's not bullish. And then a couple days later, you had this huge volume day. And it looks like they tried to kind of fill that gap. Doesn't look like they did it, but they tried to. Yeah, they tried to. And that's where you start paying attention. You go, that's kind of interesting. Look at all that volume. Why'd all that volume come in there? And then you can do things like, hey, look at the highs. Look at the lows. See what they do. And initially, they make a new high and they sell it off. But it holds. And even on a more kind of like meta level, what they do here, like we talk about all the time, they just trade just underneath the lows, suck out liquidity, and turn it right back. So, and they traded over the previous high too, like held. You know, this is kind of like a really interesting candle, this one. And that would have gotten you in long before the move. And at a much safer risk place. Sure, they could gain it again. They could go another leg. They could go another 3 legs. It's just, will they? And that's hard to know. The volume, though, kind of told the story here. The volume told you that there was some accumulation going on. Look at the increase in the average. I mean, that light blue line, that's the average volume. Look at it comparatively speaking on that sell-off. Just really, really low volume sell-off. And then all of a sudden you get this big gap down and all this volume starts coming in. Why? You know? That's my thoughts on BBBY, Alex. I don't know if that answers anything for you, but that's my thoughts on it. Brian Pike, AZN has been solid bull for 5 years going. This is AstraZeneca, right? Yep. Looks like we've done some work here. Look at this bullish monster 5-year bull. Yeah, I mean, it has been. What is this? What's the low? 25 to 66. 5 years has gained 200%. It's kind of a little boring, isn't it? But yeah, you know, a steady earner. Does this thing have dividends? Yes, it does. So there's that too. Yeah, I mean, looks great, right? Only thing that could potentially be troublesome, you got a lower high here on the July monthly in comparison to your April monthly. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, just, you know, calling it to your attention. But this, what is this? This 66 level on this one. I mean, what's the deal with 66 on this name? Like, look at these opens and closes here over the past 6 months. They're all just like right there. That seems weird. See if it has like a history of doing that. I mean, you see it right here. You have a couple, three opens and closes right there on the 60 level. Yeah, I mean, I guess it does kind of have like a history of doing this flat top stuff. So maybe that's just what it does. 66 is just a big level. Excuse me, guys. On the smaller time frame, this is the weekly. I guess it's not small, but on a slightly smaller time frame, I mean, very clear. Higher highs, higher lows. Clear uptrend. Daily time frame, choppy mess. So you really want to see a move up and over 67 or so. Get that, and then you'd be targeting 69 and 70 and a half. And then 71, 74. Will King Dollar hold? Britsu, how's it going, man? Good to see you here as always. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Will King Dollar hold, Chewy? This is the eternal question. I know it was selling off pretty nasty earlier today. It got to our trend line, though, didn't it? Finally. And it took out those previous lows, and it's trying to close above them. Yeah, I don't know. We will have to see. There are still levels below that can come. This thing's been running hot. That is for sure. Made a new high. Not on a closing basis, but it did make a new high. On some kind of closing basis, it did. Maybe the daily or something. Yeah, daily made a couple of them. You know, I don't know. I don't know what to really think here. I think, again, we just kind of have to wait and see. We've made a new low. Will it hold? Hard to say. Got a couple gaps below, around 27.75. You got this area here, 27.5. It's really tight ranges. Because my gut is that we continue to kind of grind higher on the indices, I think we probably pull back some on the dollar. Pull back some more over the next weeks, months. I did not get good sleep last night, so I apologize for all my yawning. EMPH. Let's take a look at it. It's chart request day. EMPH. Such a powerful move out of this little consolidation area, huh? I was watching it. I wanted to get in this so bad, and I just didn't because they had earnings, and I was waiting for a setup that never came. They gapped and goed and didn't give me any chance. So now they've made new highs. Lots of different ways to try and figure out where the next high might be. Some people like to use fibs. Some people like to use diagonals. I kind of think it's interesting to use diagonals. Doesn't mean it's necessarily right, but we can also try a fib. In this case, I'll measure fibs from high to low. And yeah, it gets me to the 1.382 by November. Probably come sooner than that. 1.236 could be a spot eventually. 1.618, big target. 387. I mean, you know, whenever you have this kind of gap and go thing, you expect eventually price is gonna come back. But for now, we have a fundamental change, right? In huge earnings, huge volume. They are not selling this thing off. So whenever this happens, just like I would for a gap down, I'll anchor a VWAP to where that started. I'm gonna use that anchored VWAP to be partially my guide. Are we trading above it? Are we trading below it? We're trading above it. Strong. We haven't even come back in to test it. Tells me everything I need to know. This thing is strong as can be, and because as strong as can be, I gotta expect it's gonna continue higher. Now, if it starts failing new highs and starts maybe making new lows and maybe takes out the VWAP, maybe comes back and tests wick through, bounces, comes back, makes a new low, and then comes back to the VWAP. I mean, again, this could take a long time. But I try not to make too many gut shot decisions. Try and let price action kind of guide me. And right now, price action is screaming, hey, this thing's really strong. So I got to respect that. Even if I think, wow, we are pretty extended. Because, I mean, in theory, we are. We're at new highs. We're at risk of exhaustion. But even off of new highs, if you just move this up to the high, look how clean. You know, they came up to it, they failed it, and then they gained it. And then they made new highs, and they came back and they held it right here. What more do you need to know? It's probably going higher. You know, if that changes, maybe they get below these lows. I mean, they could be, potentially, they could be putting in a lower high today, but you could have said that here too, and then they gained. But then as soon as they gained, they reversed it back and tested. So now I think, and it held, so now I think we're going for new highs. So my target, personally, if I were to be long this, my target would be this high, 309.31. And then you could look for stops kind of depending on how tight you want to keep them. Here's the 30, yeah, it's kind of the high. See what they do if they pull back to that, in here. So we can just anchor VWAP from those lows. So I maybe use this anchored VWAP as my line in the sand. We could come back into it and test it, but if we trade below it and then it fails and then we come back into it and it acts as resistance, that might be my cue to like, oh, okay, things might be changing a little bit. So yeah, that's what I think. You're very welcome, James. You're very welcome, Alex. I won't even remember the charts that I looked at for you guys, but I'm really glad that y'all are here, and I'm happy to look at anything for you. I know we have at least one fellow who's brand new to the platform. Are there any other noobs in the pack today? Any new people to the TrendSpider platform that maybe this is their first time hanging out? Would love to say hello to you. Brian Pike, Ab V. Let's go to the weekly here. Interesting. Tricky. Tricky. Held the low. Potentially making a higher low, but getting caught up at the anchored VWAP from the start of the move. This is, just the big green bar that took us up. Suppose you could, depending on where you anchor, this might even be a more suitable place to anchor from. Yeah, so this is why I anchored there, right? Anchor from this major pivot low. I guess you could anchor from here too. I bet this one comes into it. Yeah, so this is why I did. Just a little cleaner. So from this major pivot low here, we test, we hold. Let's do this. Let's go from this low. Yeah, I mean, this is not exactly what you want to see. You really want to see price trading above this VWAP, because this just tells you that your average buyer now from this low, October 2021 low, average buyer is losing on this trade. It's not great. You also were not able to make a new high here, and you got caught up on the anchored VWAP from the highs. So you got two potentially important areas that are going to be troublesome. You did hold this. Go to the daily. Interesting. I mean, you want to see this gain, this anchored VWAP with the quickness. You've got your 200 SMA, price trading just below it, for those of you who are interested in the 200 SMA. I like that it held a higher low. Could just end up chopping. I mean, there are things that could be tested in here. They could come back since they held this low. If they continue to hold it, they'll likely come back in. And then you just got to kind of see if it starts failing and not making a new high and starts rolling over, you can, I think, pretty much expect new lows, or at least to test previous ones. There's a big one here, but this one's kind of more important to me. 128. Fail that, then you're in trouble. Then you're going 123. I mean, I guess you know, depending on how you play this, if you play it with common, you're still pretty safe. I mean, we're talking about $20. Brian, man, that's very kind of you to say. I mean, I feel bad because I'm not even like showcasing half the tools on here. I'm just because I trade price action. It's just kind of how I look at things. We could talk about tools though, because then we could really like talk about showcasing the platform. So if you got questions about tools, let's talk about tools, scanning, backtesting, alerts, all that sort of stuff. Young Ness, VIX. Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise. Not really a surprise to see it failing because, you know, I think kind of what we might be setting up for it, I could be totally wrong, but I think what we could be setting up for is like a slow grind. We could be setting up for a slow grind higher over the, you know, next couple of months. Like somebody said earlier, it's just a data point to data point, right? So now we know that inflation came in a little bit cooler than expected. So now what's the expectation? Is the expectation that the Fed is going to relax on the rate hikes? If that's the expectation, then I would think that maybe markets are going to slowly grind higher. I have a hard time charting VIX here because I just don't. I mean, it's just this price action is like, it's just so tight. I don't personally follow VIX too much. Making new lows. Maybe we could get a little pop. Maybe. Maybe we get a little pop on the VIX. If they take out these lows, probably you're going to get some sort of something eventually. Some sort of reaction. But new lows is not necessarily bullish for the VIX, is it? TW pivot. That's an indicator, Mr. Ness. Click on the three dots. Type in TW pivot. Click it. And there you go. Say apply. And that bad mamma jam will be on that chartios. Raindrop candles. Great question. Haven't talked about these in a while. Let's talk about them. What ticker do you want to look at, Alex? Anything in particular? Any ticker in particular? Nope. Okay. Just go to the Qs. Ooh, Qs. High a day. Interesting. This is strong. Okay, so the way that the raindrop candles work. Actually, let's go to it daily. Raindrop candles are completely unique to the platform. There's no other platform that has the old raindrop candles. I'm going to zoom in here on just today's. We can talk about today's, and then we can talk about kind of the rest of them. But For now, we're talking about today. Actually, you know what? Since today's isn't closed yet, let's talk about yesterday's. Right here. Raindrop candles are volume-based candles. So your standard Japanese candle has an open, a high, a low, and a close. Oh, you want to talk about Tesla, Alex? I'm already here. Let's just stay on QQQ. Your standard Japanese candle has an open, high, low, close. Raindrop candles have a high and a low, but they don't have an open and a close value. They have a left-hand side and a right-hand side. The left-hand side of a raindrop candle represents the first half of the time frame, whatever time frame you're on. The right-hand side of the raindrop candle represents the second half of the time frame. So for yesterday's candle, this bad boy right here, left-hand side is the first half. Right-hand side is the second half. On the left-hand side, we have a contour. On the right-hand side, we have a contour. Contour represents the distribution of the volume from the high to the low. The wider the contour, the more volume occurred at that particular price point. The thinner the contour, the less volume occurred at that price point. So on the first half of the day yesterday, there was a little bit of volume in between 318 and 319, but most of the volume occurred between 317.80 and 315. Additionally, you'll notice on the left and the right-hand side, there is a bar. There's a horizontal bar. Horizontal bar is the VWAP for the first half of the time frame and the VWAP for the second half of the time frame. So on the left-hand side, that's the VWAP for the first half. Right-hand side, that's the VWAP for the second half. So on the left-hand side, first half of the day yesterday, VWAP was at 317.03. Right-hand side, second half of the day, VWAP on the Qs was at 316.76. Notice how that number decreased, right? From 317 and change to 316.70. It's a decrease. Because it decreased, we get a red candle. So whenever the VWAP from the first half to the second half of the time frame decreases, you get a red candle. When the VWAP from the first half to the second half of the time frame increases, like it has done today, you get a green candle. On occasion, you get a candle that looks like this one. Call these blue raindrops, this guy right here. Blue raindrops are different because they are essentially true volume dojis, meaning the VWAP on either side of the candle is pretty much at the same point. It means most of the volume occurred on both halves of the time frame at the same level. When that happens, that is an indecision candle, very much akin to your standard doji, but more proper than your standard doji because the standard doji doesn't take into account volume. So we don't know where the volume within those wicks are. Blue doji is a true volume doji, true indecision candle. And generally speaking, what indecision tends to lead to is price discovery. The reason why is pretty simple. When a market is indecisive, generally price action is pretty tight. Now, sometimes you will see blue raindrops that are quite wide, take up a bunch of price action. But usually they're pretty small. When that's the case, guess who's not making any money? Pretty much everybody, right? If you're bullish, you're bearish. The only person really making money in that way is maybe somebody who's like neutral, maybe somebody who's playing both sides. When the market is indecisive, not many people are making money, and generally what will come out of that is price discovery. So market will push in one direction or another. They don't really suggest what direction the market's going to push, but we do tend to see them, not all the time, but we tend to see them at periods where markets need to make a decision. So we oftentimes see them at important inflection points. Do they come at every major low and every major high? Of course not. But do they tend to come near swings? Yeah, they do. Apple is an example I used to show folks a lot back when I used to be a trainer. I mean, shoot, look at it here. Especially recently. Come off a pivot low. Here's a blue doji. You make an extension. You get up near those highs. You get two blue dojis, and we take a big dump. Get down to the pivot lows, and we start seeing a blue doji, and we make a move higher. Again, they don't come instantly,
but they do tend to come near periods of importance. We can even go back. Apple just historically has been pretty good with its blue dojis. You can kind of see where they are here too, you know, right on this high. They didn't quite nail the low here, a little bit indecisive, but they did lead to some pretty gnarly volatility. Big 2 up, 2 down. I mean, that's a lot of volatility in a very short period of time. You'll also see them a lot in consolidation phases. So the more sideways price has gone, you're likely to see one. They tend to end cap consolidation phases. They don't always, but they tend to come towards the end. So generally speaking, what I will look for is I will look for them kind of at the end of consolidation phases. I look for them in clusters like this, because when they're in clusters like this, it's really, really rare. Getting a double blue doji, like super, super, super rare. And you could back test it and see. I think it's maybe only happened like 1 or 2 times on Apple. So whenever I feel like a move is getting extended, we're starting to, maybe we might cool off, or we might catch a bid again, I'm going to throw on the raindrops to see if we're getting blue dojis. And you can check on lower time frames. You can check on the big time frames. I'm always looking on the daily, you know me. But that's kind of the gist of it. One thing I did not go over, it just occurred to me looking at this. Sometimes you're going to see candles that are flat on one side. If any section of the candle is flat, the reason why that's the case is because price did not trade within that price area on that half of the time frame. So for example, this candle here on Apple, the left-hand side of the day, price traded from the high to the low and everywhere in between. On the right-hand side of the day, it only traded on the bottom half of the range. It did not trade in the top half. So it kind of suggests that we're probably going to go lower because the market's sold into the second half of the day. We see it here. You have your first half of the day, the market is trading at the top half of the range. Your second half of the day, the market is trading in the bottom half of the range. And the next day, we trade lower. Same here, right? We trade to the full range, but the second half of the day, we only traded the bottom of the range. We went lower. Again here, second half of the day, we only traded the bottom of the range. We went lower. We did ultimately end up going higher, but we still made new lows, right? So that's kind of the gist about the raindrops. And when it comes to comparing TrendSpider to TradingView, I would say that we have different goals. TrendSpider seeks to be an all-in-one trading platform for any trader. TradingView, I can't really speak to TradingView. It's not my company. I don't work there. I don't know every last thing that their tool does. But the purpose of TrendSpider is that you can do all of your technical analysis within the platform. So alerts, back testing, scanning. We now have bots. We now have trading bots. You can turn your scripts that you're using for your alerts, you can turn those scripts into actionable signals to actually execute trades. We've got a host of additional information. For example, in your sidebar, if you click on add or remove widgets, I'm just going to remove these guys, go to add new. We've got news, Benzinga news, analyst estimates information. So some of that information that maybe you would get from like FinViz or something, get that here. Seasonality information. This is seasonal trends of a stock. Insider trading information, tracking, what insiders are doing at companies, buying, selling. Smart checklist. This is kind of a cool one. I can go through that if you're interested in it. It's kind of like a unique little tool. Unusual options. I mean, this unusual options alone is something that most people pay an entire subscription fee from another company. There are plenty of unusual options providers. And I'm not going to say that we do everything that some of those companies do, but if you need the bare bones, you want to know where are the unusual options trades, we've got it. And then
I think, I may be a little biased because it's the team that I'm on. It's the thing that I've done for the past 2.5 years, but we're sitting here talking right now, Alex. I'm answering your questions about TrendSpider live in real time. At any point, you can reach out to us. We have live people in chat down here, bottom of the chart. Contact us button, click that. We have live guys in chat every day, Monday through Friday, about 21 hours per day. Saturday, Sunday, about 8 hours per day. So almost always someone around who can answer your question. These are all real people. This is James right here. This is Justin. This is Matt. Good dudes. I used to work on their team. So they can answer any questions that you have about the platform. You can also reach out to us and sign up for one-on-one training if you need it. So let's say you would like to learn how to script something for the scanner. Maybe you have particular things that you're looking to scan the market for, whatever that may be. I don't know. If you're curious, I can walk you through some of it. But you don't know how to write the scripts for the scanner. Well, you can hit us up in chat, or you can sign up for a one-on-one training. Click on your name, top right corner. Scroll down to where it says scheduled training. You won't see it on my side because I'm an employee here, but you will see it on yours. So click on scheduled training, set up a time to do just that. 45-minute screen share with one of our trainers to answer any specific questions that you may have about the platform. And I think that's a huge value add. It's not something that we get a ton of props for. It's not something that we talk much about, but I talk a lot about it personally because, like I said, I am a little biased, but I think it's huge. I can't get on TradingView and ask somebody from TradingView a question about how to do anything. I can't do that. That's just not something that they offer. The accessibility to product experts is really important, especially on a product that is pretty complex. This one is. And we think it's important to get you guys trained up so you know what you're doing. So that's huge. So real quick, I'll address your 2 quick questions. First of all, the SMART checklist, without getting into too much of how it works. What it does, the SMART checklist allows you, so there are a lot of traders out there that use a lot of indicators or are looking for a lot of particular things. It could be indicator conditions, it could be price conditions, it could be candlestick pattern conditions, whatever. And they may be looking for these specific things to be occurring before they're even willing to get into a trade. If you have, 5 things, let's say price above yesterday's high. Let's say price above the 200-day moving average. Let's say RSI increasing the past 3 days. Let's say, I don't know, the 9 EMA is above the 21 EMA. And let's say bullish engulfing candle today, right? So I just named 5 random things. You can input those random things into your SMART checklist, and I'm just going to grab something here. Let me see. Actually, let's do FTFC. Input those random things into your SMART checklist, and your SMART checklist is going to automatically check the chart to see if those conditions are being met. So think about this. If you are watching, I don't know how many names you watch, how many names you trade, but let's say you are watching 15, 20 names. And in order to even consider taking a trade on any of those 15 or 20 names, there are 5 conditions that absolutely have to be true. Before a SMART checklist, you would have had to look on the chart and just see all of those things occurring in real time for you to know. Depending on what those things were, it might take you 5 seconds to do that. It might take you 30 seconds to do that. I don't know. You do spread that across 15, 20 names, and now you're at 5 minutes, right? That's valuable time. So I've got 4 conditions in here. These are very, very basic conditions, but it's full time frame continuity. This is a strat philosophy, and it's looking for essentially green on the 60-minute, the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. Green candles. And it's telling me, without looking at 4 time frames, it's telling me instantly that, yeah, we're green on all of those. It's huge, right? I don't have to look at 4 time frames. I don't have to split my chart into 4 time frames. I can just look right here and know, okay, we're green on all 4 time frames. Great. I'm willing to take a trade, a long trade on Apple. What about MVDA? Are we green on all 4? No, we're not. We're not green on the day. We're not green on the week. Right? Like being able to make these quick get this quick understanding is really helpful. Makes things move really quickly. So that's what the smart checklist is all about. Like I said, you can input all kinds of different things in there. You can use up to 4 different time frames as well. So like if you're looking for things on different time frames, price above whatever, price below whatever, you know, you name it. Like I said, if you have specifics, this is where things get tricky, right? This is where traders, if you could do a lot, but you got to know specifically what you're looking for. So there's that give and take. So I always, whenever I'm kind of teaching about the scanner or any of the scripting tools, I always tell folks to define their minimums. And what I mean by that is define the minimum things that have to be true in order for you to even be willing to take a trade. If you're looking for, I want to buy when the 9 EMA crosses up on the 21 EMA and price is above the 9 and the 21 EMA, you can scan for that. We can find stuff meeting that criteria right now, but you might get names that aren't quite what you would trade. And maybe that's because they're less than a certain dollar amount. Maybe you don't trade names that are less than 20 bucks. Maybe they're below their 200 daily, 200 SMA. You don't want to go long on those. Like, I don't know what your rules are. You may have all kinds of different rules. So the smart checklist is like one way of helping you see those rules being true or not. But then with scripting, so scripting is utilized across the platform. You're going to use scripts in the scanner. You're going to use scripts for multi-factor alerts. You're going to use scripts in the back tester. And, you know, essentially, I'll kind of quickly talk through how to think about writing a script. Like, let's say we want to write a script for the 9 EMA crossing up on the 21. The way that we would do that, we click add parameter. We're going to choose the condition option. We're talking about indicators, so we select the indicator. Next, we got to select our time frame for the first one. Let's say the daily. So we say daily, and then we could type in EMA here. Grab an exponential. We're looking for it crossing up, so we need to next scroll through this list, choose crossed up, and it's crossing up on another EMA. So say indicator, say daily time frame, type in EMA. So now we've got a EMA is crossing up on an EMA. Click on this box and we can adjust the length. So I'm gonna make this 9. Click on this, make this 21. So now we've got 9 EMA crossing up on 21 EMA, right? Let's say price, we want to see price above them too. Let's do that. So we'll say condition, we'll say price, daily close, greater than, indicator, daily, EMA. We'll make this 9. The reason why we make it 9 is because if the 9 is crossing up on the 21 and we want price above both, then presumably price is going to be above the 21. If it's above the 9, it's going to also be above the 21. So these are the two things that maybe we're looking for, right? This is the conditions that we want to look for, or we want to be alerted on, or we want to back test, or whatever. Now, I always recommend add in some other conditions, like I said, to filter things out. There might be a lot of names meeting this criteria right now, depending on the list that you scan through. So I always add stuff. I always say things like daily price close, greater than a constant value. I'll say like 10. I don't really want to trade stocks below 10 bucks. Easy peasy. Maybe I also want to see price above its 200-day moving average. So say price, daily close, greater than, indicator, daily, SMA. Right, so now not only is the 9 crossing up on the 21 and price is above them both, but also price is greater than 10 bucks and it's closing above the 200 SMA. Might want to add a volume. I always recommend volume conditions. Just a minimum volume condition. Could be whatever, but I usually do like a million shares. So we'll say volume, comma MA is greater than a constant value, and we'll type in a million. Right, so now we've got, this is what we're looking for, right? And we could go and adjust this if we want to. Maybe we want to see this EMA cross on the hourly, not on the daily. Let's switch it to the hourly. Right? And also let's go ahead and switch this. Let's switch this right here to the hourly too. I can keep this on the daily. Let's switch this to the hourly too. And when you click on add parameter here, you see a couple of different options: condition, condition group, and load from template. So right now, this is just a condition group. And all of these conditions here are defined as all of the following. If we click all the following, you get the option of changing this to any, all, or none. Well, in this case, maybe we want these 5 things to be true, but what if we also wanted something else to be true? And maybe we want like a group of things to potentially be true. I'm thinking of like bullish candles or something like that. You can't have, a hammer isn't necessarily a doji, isn't necessarily an engulfing candle, right? Like, those are all different things. But maybe you want to see any of those candles forming along with all of this stuff. So let's add that. How do we do that? Well, we do that using the condition group, because remember, we're talking about different types of candles. We have to define this a different way. So instead of saying all the following, since a candle can't be a hammer and a doji and an engulfing candle, it's either one, right? So we have to change this to any of the following, and then we would input those conditions. So we'll say candlestick pattern, we'll say hourly hammer, we'll say condition, candlestick pattern, hourly engulfing, bullish, and then we'll say condition, candlestick pattern, hourly doji. Right, I'm just picking random things here. So now all 5 of these things need to be true, and either of these 3 things need to be true. If all 5 of these things are true on a name, but they don't have one of these candlestick patterns on the current hourly candle, the name is not going to come up as a result. And the whole idea of scanning is to simplify your results, right? Or is to like make your results less. You want to whittle things down as much as possible so that you're actually getting the things that you're looking for. So anyway, so now that we've got this, we choose our scan through list. I usually pick NASDAQ, NMS, it's the biggest list. You can only scan through one list at a time. It is not extended well, I guess technically it is extended hours now because it's 2:02, market just closed. But generally speaking, if you're looking for stuff occurring in extended hours, you can turn that on. If you're looking for the current during normal market hours, leave that off. And then the current candle toggle, real important, this is looking for these conditions to be true on the current candle that's forming. So let's talk about this real quick. Let's pretend the market's still open right now. I know it just closed 2 minutes ago, but let's pretend it's still open right now. If the market is open right now and we have the current candle toggled off, it's going to be looking for these conditions to be true on the most recently closed candle. Most recently closed daily candle, if the market is open right now, is yesterday's daily because today's still open. The most recently closed hourly candle is just that. If it's 59 minutes into the current hourly candle, it's still going to be looking at the hourly candle that closed 59 minutes ago. So if you want to be looking at the current candle that's forming, make sure you turn that on. So you could run this scan. You can look and see if there's anything meeting this criteria right now. And it's going to come up with names if there's anything meeting this criteria. So this is scripting within the platform. Once you have this script written, you can save it as a script. You can save this as a scan, and you could share this scan with other users, maybe in our Discord. You're welcome to sign up in there. Other users can share their scans with you too. So it's a cool kind of little sharing functionality there. VRRM is meeting the criteria right now. Very few names actually meeting this criteria. This name happens to be one of them. Kind of cool. So once you've got this script written out, like I said, you could save this as a scanner. We'll call this 921 scan, right? Maybe with bullish candle. Say save. Now it's going to be saved over here in our shared scanners list. We don't have to write this out anymore. It's just going to be over here. If I type in 9-21, there it is. But I can also take this script and I could save it as a script. And by saving it as a script, I can use it everywhere else. So if I go to script actions up here, say save as template. I'm going to call this 9-21 with bullish candle. Say save. So now it's listed over here in our script manager. And because it's listed over here, I know that it's now saved as a script. I can now use this everywhere else. So say I want to load this into that smart checklist. Go to my smart checklist, go to the drop-down menu, search 9-21 with bullish candle. So now I know on this particular name what of this criteria is true. So in this particular case, it's forming a doji on the 60. We can see it right there, right? And then everything else is true, right? All the green boxes means it's true. The red boxes means they're not true. But for this particular one, since any of these can be true and this one is, it's meeting the criteria. right? I could go and say, create an alert on this. Maybe I just found VRRM, but what if I wanted to maybe be alerted when Apple meets this criteria next? I go to the Apple chart. I go to alerts. I go to multi-factor alerts, create a multi-factor alert. I go to script actions, say load from template, search 9-21. Here it is. Say choose this script. Now it's loaded those conditions into an alert on Apple. I choose how long I want the alert to live in my system, how many times I want to be triggered on it, say create alert. And now the platform's going to automatically send me an alert next time these conditions are true on Apple, right? I don't have to sit there and stare at it. If I want to, I can go to the strategy tester. Strategy tester allows me to test and see when these conditions are met on a particular name, how does it produce, or how does it perform? VVRM, or is it VRRM? Yeah. Go to script actions, load from template, 9-21 with bullish candle. There you go. So now I've loaded those criteria in as my entry criteria on this particular name, right? I can come up with an exit criteria, or maybe a certain number of candles have passed, just something simple just to kind of get this point across. Choose how far back you're testing. Choose the time frame you're testing on. It's going to automatically test it for you and tell you how this thing performs when this criteria is met. This particular criteria has never been met on the hourly time frame on this particular name. So there is no historical data. On the daily time frame, no entries. Interesting. Wow. So sometimes that's how it works. You know, sometimes you don't get any results. Sometimes you do. Just depends. But that's kind of the gist of the scripting. There's other tools too. There's auto analysis tools. This thing's going to automatically draw your fib levels for you. Automatically draws trend lines on your chart for you. That one's a little crazy. Go to this, most relevant. You don't have to draw trend lines anymore. If you draw diagonals, you don't have to draw them anymore. It's going to draw the most mathematically sound diagonals that exist on the chart at any given time. Heat maps. Heat maps are kind of my vibe. Specifically the horizontal ones, looking for areas of support and resistance based off of previous price consolidation. Lots of tools, man. Lots of tools, Alex. All that to say, lots of tools. So if you're part of Trading Wars Army, then you would want to speak to him, get his code, get his coupon code. He'll hook you up with it. Once you sign up for the platform, he will send you his scans. We don't have them. Those will come direct from him. Roman, we just got asked about, or we didn't just get asked about it, but we got asked about Disney earlier. Disney's in a hot spot. Right into those previous highs. We'll have to wait and see what it does when it gets there, or what it does from here. This is a decent place to be taking profit into those previous highs if you're long already. If it's able to gain it, then, you know, we'll see kind of what it does once it gains. How does it gain? Does it just wick through? Does it actually hold? But right now it's at a take profit spot for sure. So Alex, does that help you? Does that kind of bring it a little bit more into focus? I know there's a lot there, so I understand if that was maybe too much for you. Lutish, bingo. Sorry for the delay on that. Awesome, Alex. Well, like I said, I'm always here on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle there at the bottom of the screen over here, Krutzky Trades. Feel free to hit me up with any questions that you may have. And like I said, anytime you're curious about stuff, we got guys in chat answering those questions all day, every day. So don't hesitate to hit them up either. Bingo looking like a monster. Honestly. Huge close over those previous highs. You are at exhaustion risk because you've now made a new high. Where it will get exhausted, we'll have to wait and see. Always going to anchor like this from the big highs. We can anchor from this one too. Pretty strong, man. mean, and honestly, like volume-wise, how much volume did it do today? 18.71 million against 7.34 average. Only double average volume today. Interesting. Earnings a couple days ago, so those are out of the way. That's good. Yeah, I mean, next big high is 387. So you'd be watching that. Maybe 370. Don't know if it'll get there quickly. It could get there tomorrow. Could blow right through that tomorrow. $3 stock could have the cure for cancer. It could. Got to start somewhere, right? Another thing that I would maybe do, actually, instead of going off the highs, let's go from here. I mean, we could see that this thing can do crazy volume. We've seen it. And we can also see that it ain't doing anywhere near what it can do. So this could be something really interesting. Honestly, it really could. Anchored view app from the start of this move back in December 2020. Wonder what it was that got this thing moving so much. That is at 585. Aligns with your big. I mean, this would be my big target here. Would be six and change, $6. That would be my big target. So a double from here if it gets there. Could happen. I mean, clearly the volume is there, but it's not crazy yet. So maybe that's could be suggesting that that crazy volume is to come. The only thing that freaks me out is when you make these big new highs like this. I always have the tendency to expect a pullback. Doesn't mean they will. Doesn't mean they'll do it anytime soon, or doesn't mean they have to. But it's just what I've gotten used to. Could just be the market that we've been in. At some point, once we're like really seriously, honestly, in a proper bull market, that's when buying these sorts of breakouts actually starts kind of working, or at least the pullbacks to the breakouts. But I don't know. I mean, this seems like a very, unique sort of scenario. We need to look more into like the news component. If they've got the cure for cancer, I would imagine that they're worth a lot more than $3. I mean, mRNA. Where did mRNA come from back before COVID? mRNA was trading $20 and it went to 500. It can happen. It can definitely happen. Will it? Who knows? Throw a few bucks at it. Don't look again. Maybe it is. Maybe it has the cure for cancer. Alex, we're talking about BNGO. If you scroll up, Lutish Fishman mentioned BNGO. Says $3 stock could have the cure for cancer. Well, y'all, we got 15 minutes left. Let's take a look at where the market's closed today. Q's closed almost on the highs. Let me go back to a smaller time frame here. Yeah, I mean, they made a new high. What are they doing after hours? Selling off a little, but nothing alarming. It's going to be really, really interesting to see if they just slowly grind this thing. Everybody doing musical chairs, waiting for everything to dump. SPY closed almost at the high. They sold it off kind of right at the last few minutes. IWM. Yeah, they sold it off last 10 minutes too. Made a new high before they did it. Where are cryptos at? ETH. Ethereum Ripper. 1821. New highs again today. I think this baby's eyeing the 2K spot. BTC. BTC kind of failing. Ethereum is definitely the leader here. Let's look at Solana. Solana failing a little. Solana used to be the strongest of the bunch. Used to lead every time. And now it's not. Definite change of trend for old Solana here. Interesting. Anything else you guys want to look at before I get out of here? BNZMB, we've gone over Disney twice. Did you just get here? Disney, big spot. Big spot into those previous highs. Right on. Well, thank you for being here. Do appreciate it. Yeah, so Disney at a big spot, you know. No. Don't be sorry. It's all good. Hard to go long. Like, you can't go long here into this because you're right at previous highs and it might be trying to fail them here. See what happens. If we can get a move above and we can close above, then that tells us something. If we can't, we've got some levels lower that we're watching. You've got your anchored VWAP from this big gap down. That's currently at about 9,900 bucks. That jives with this low here. Could be interesting. Another 12% lower. I don't think it's going to get there, but it could. Maybe more importantly is this 105 low. See what happens if it pulls back to that. I mean, this thing is pretty extended, but could definitely keep going higher. But where they paused it today is just, you just kind of got to wait and see. Because you can't really do anything here. You can't assume that it's a short, but you also can't assume that it's a long. So therefore, you just got to wait. You got 2 days. They could go sideways here, you know. They could scoop the high. You know, they could come in and press through the high and they immediately sell it off. Or they could press through the high and just keep gaining and come back and test later. Let price action tell you. Is my thoughts on that. Because it's at a really tricky spot right now. PBW. Yeah, I mean, perfect consolidation pattern. This guy, you know, nice little falling wedge type of thing. Always looking for these. Always. Held a higher low. Not bearish. And then just a beautiful move out. There's really nothing stopping it from 64, 65. There's really nothing stopping it from filling that gap. Oh, did Disney have earnings? Hold up. I didn't even check and see. Oh, that changes the whole thing. All right. We'll see. There you go. There you go. I didn't realize this was an earnings play. Nobody told me. I guess that makes sense. I should have figured that since so many people were asking about it. Yeah, I mean, I don't play in earnings. So, especially not something like that. That could have gone either way. You just never know what it's going to do. So now, if they're able to hold this, then The obvious thing is you look for a pullback. You look for a move back into 112. If they open this tomorrow up, it could, I mean, it could just be a gap and go, right? It definitely could. I don't know what their earnings were like. We could check, I guess. Let me add news real quick and see. Reported quarterly earnings of $1.09 per share, which beat the analyst consensus estimate of $1 by 9%, or 9 cents. This is a 36.25% increase over earnings of 80 cents per share from the same time last year. It's not bad, is it? Yeah, so I mean, next big level I see is like 130. I'd still love to see a pullback, but you know, who knows? If you get this gap and go, get a ton of, just like we saw with, what's it called? EMPH. You know, you had earnings right here. Or no, you had earnings right here, rather. Big old gap and go. They did, check it out, they did wick down into the previous day. I don't know if, let me, not to compare apples and oranges here. Okay, so the earnings were this day. And they wicked down into it a little bit. They came back a little. They didn't come back much. See what they do if they bring it back into 112.85 though. Could go there, could go back into 116. Yeah, hard to know. Hard to know. But if they do keep gaining, let's go to weekly here. Yeah. So the first and most obvious spot that I see, yeah, that's where it jives, is right in here. You know, you got these previous lows. Works real nice with your anchored view app from the November highs, which has been important previously. So if it's able to continue going, I would expect a move into 129, 130. Maybe they could wick through it a little bit, but that would be target 130. Would still love to see a move back into 112 first. Actually, you know what? While we're here, I'm just going to make that alert, because I would buy that probably. So, Alex, check this out. I'm just creating an alert at the price level, 112.85. I've chosen a touch and a bounce alert. So price could either touch or bounce off of this area, and I'm going to get alerted either way. My sensitivity is the dollar amount plus or minus the line that the alert fires within. So essentially, if I wanted specifically to only be alerted if price got to 112.85, I could turn sensitivity off, or I could turn it up and I'll be alerted within a range. So in this case, I'm going to do like $2. So $2 above 112.85. If price comes and touches or bounces anywhere within 114.85, I'm going to get an alert to let me know. I choose the 5-minute confirmation candle. That's the fastest time frame you can get an alert. I say buy Disney as the title, just to let me know, because this is gonna text my phone, or I'm gonna get a text message to let me know. So I want that text message to read with the action that I want to take. So buy Disney, and then my expiration. I'm just gonna put like a 3-day expiration on this, because you know, if it doesn't come back in 3 days, it's a gap and go, and it's probably going to 130, and I probably missed it, right? Actually, let's just do 4 days. I could choose multiple triggers. So each time these conditions are met, each next candle that they're met on, I'm going to get an alert up to 20 unique times. I don't need that, but I usually do at least 2 triggers. So now I've got an alert here at this 112.85 level up to 114.85. If price comes back into 114.85 and touches or bounces, I'm going to get an alert to let me know. So I don't have to sit here and stare at the charts waiting for it to happen. It's just going to do it. just going to let me know. So guys, are you able to set that to your brokerage? Yeah. Create a trading bot. And I don't have the time to get into this today, so let me send you this. Actually,
Dan here with TrendSpider.
sorry, I just had to find the video. This is a video with our founder going over how to create a trading bot in 5 minutes. We're also launching a new product here quite soon. It's going to be an order execution product. So yes. You're very, very welcome, Alex. I'm glad to have somebody new on the chat that isn't familiar with the platform, because then I get to showcase all the tools. A lot of folks who come hang out here use the platform all day, every day, so they kind of know what the tools are. But, you know, half of the reason I'm here is to teach you how to do things. So like I said, hit me up if you have any questions. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up in chat if you have any questions. Chat is the fastest way to get a hold of us. So if you have any questions about anything, hit us up here. Feel free to be a part of any of these lives that I do. I'm live on Mondays. I'm live on Wednesdays, 2:30 to 4:30 Eastern time. And with that, guys, that's really going to be it for me today. Let me grab a few links real quick. I need to give you guys some links. I might need to get Miss Sadie to hook me up with them. Sadie is my producer. She's the best. Everybody say hi to Sadie. I don't know if she's watching right now, but let me get you guys a couple of things. First off, curious to meet new TrendSpider users? Join our Discord. We've got a Discord now. I answer questions in there too. Actually, we all do. So if you have any questions, you can hit us up in Discord if you want. Let me see if I can get her to send me. She said, "What do you need? I hear my name." Sadie, will you send me the Google Sheets for my calendar? I need to just pin it. Oh, is this it? This is it. Google Calendar. It's already pinned. Well, that was easy. Yeah, it is pinned. Okay, great. Here we go. If you guys want to keep track of what I'm doing, where I'm at, when I'm at there, or when I'm there, this is my calendar, so you guys can be informed as to what's coming on. Next week, watch list for tomorrow. Tommy, I don't have one. I mean, honestly, I don't have one. I pretty much trade futures right now, so I'm really, really focused on futures. So I'm trading ES and NQ. So that's my watch list, ES and NQ. And I'll probably watch the Russell too, just to see what they're all doing in tandem with one another. But I unfortunately don't have any individual names for you. The BNGO, I'm kind of interested to see where that goes. I might watch that tomorrow. Okay, so for the rest of the week, we have one more item this week. Tomorrow night, we're doing live charting with Jack from Alpha Charts 365. Great guy, super kind. Been around a long dang time. Cannot wait to get his thoughts on your charts. So if you've never been to a live charting show, you guys pick the tickers, we chart them out. And there is a voting system. Every ticker you can vote for 3 names. As you vote, those votes add up, and whichever one has the most votes is the one that we chart. And we usually get through like 15 to 20 names. So that's with Jack. He is at Alpha Charts 365 on Twitter. Next week, we've got a Spaces, OG Trades, Braxy, and Pat Trades. These guys are going to give us their trade ideas for the week. That's next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be live on Monday and Wednesday, 2:30 to 4:30 Eastern. And then next Thursday, We're doing live charting with Mom Ange Trades. These are all names you guys should know. If you guys are in FinTwit, you guys should know these folks. And then Jake has a weekend update coming out this week. So we'll get a refresher on what Jake is seeing across the markets. So that's it, guys. That is everything that's going on with me. I hope that this has been fun for y'all. I hope it's been as fun for y'all as it has been for me. I love doing these shows. You guys are always a blast. And yeah, we always have a good time. So thank you so much for being here. Trade them well the rest of the week. Don't get stuck in lousy positions. Wait for your setups. All that good stuff. And we'll see you again, hopefully tomorrow night. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern with Jack from Alpha Charts 365. Live charting show. If we don't see you on Thursday, you're not welcome to come to the next live show here on Monday. I'm just going to go out and say it. Don't want you to come. No, I'm just kidding. You can come anytime. Anytime I'm here, you're welcome here. And if you can't make it tomorrow, that's fine too. I understand. I get it. You got things you got to do. But Jack's going to be here. Alpha Charts 365. He's good at what he does. So I'd recommend you come. All right, guys, I'm going to dip. Have a great one, and we'll see you next time.